Ulrich from Mexico who wants to talk about the unmoved mover. Ulrich, let's get into it. In what respect do you want to talk about the unmoved mover?
Sounds a bit Kalam to me. What you got, mate?
Yeah, I always talk about the Kalam. I don't know what that is. Maybe you can explain it later. But the point is, everything is moving in the universe. So there's all in movement. The Earth is moving, the galaxy is moving, all is moving. So there must be something or somebody that moved it at the start. Where does all this energy and movement comes from, in your view?
So yeah, that's a sort of interpretation of what we know as what's called the Kalam cosmological argument, where it's essentially saying that everything has a beginning, and therefore that something must have began the universe, a first mover or uncaused cause, as some people put it. So that sounds around about where you are. Am I kind of like striking the iron there?
Yeah, right. So what is your response to that?
Want to take this one first, Richard? And I'll step in afterwards.
I don't. I would object to the term that somebody caused this. I have no objection at all with the idea that there was a cause to the universe. I have no objection to that whatsoever. It's what the science, in fact, tells us. What I have a problem with is moving from that point to the huge leap that's needed to state that an intelligence must have caused that, because there is no reason whatsoever to think that. So I'm on board with you largely for the most part. The universe began to exist. It began to move, if you like. We call this movement inflation or the Big Bang. So it's well known. It's a mainstream scientific theory. It is the main scientific theory as to how the universe came into being, and I personally have no problem with that. What I'm interested in is how we move from that. Why we should jump from that to saying an intelligence is the cause of that.
And do you, Ulrich, believe that it was an intelligence? Are you a believer of an intelligent first mover?
Right. I believe it was God. Right.
Why?
There are many reasons why. There are personal experiences, which of course don't count as an argument in a show like that. But also the things are moving in an intelligent way. It all looks structured. It's not
So that's the appearance of design, which is what people say. That's what I can't remember the official name for it, but there's a name for it. But we don't actually see evidence of design in the universe. We can overlay what we think looks like design, but it's never been proven to be designed. Everything, as far as we can see, and everything that science says to us, is that everything has a natural cause. Everything is the way it is because pretty much it has to be due to the fundamental laws of nature. And even things that look designed truly aren't. I'll give you an example. I don't know whether you're familiar with a substance called bismuth. It's a mineral. And the first time I saw it, I saw intricate pyramid-like structures made of this wonderful shiny material with perfect right angles, and it looked like ziggurat pyramids from Mexico or something like that, like a shiny little Chichen Itza. And I said, "Man, who made that?" And I was told, "No, that wasn't made. That's a crystal that grew. That's a naturally occurring thing." And that blew my mind. I think it was like 7 or 8 at the time. But that's something that I thought was designed, but was absolutely caused by natural causes. And I've never, ever encountered anything from that day to this that was apparently designed that wasn't actually caused naturally.
And to follow on from Jamie there, Ulrich, there's a very good reason for this, which is kind of well known in psychology and in neurology. If you have a look at the work of people like David Eagleman, Dean Burnett, a guy who I interviewed recently, Antonio Damasio, Richard Wiseman, who's a psychologist who's written lots and lots of books about this subject, and it's the fact that the brain is a pattern-seeking machine, and we will see what we think is design and pattern where there is none. So the appearance of design that may just be the way that we're interpreting the way the universe is in its natural state. You can see the appearance of design, if you so want to, in the flow of a river, which is an entirely random process, unless you're kind of deep into the idea of chaos theory and all that stuff, which is a very, very complicated kind of field of study. But you can see design, and the brains are actually the way the brains operate is to see design where there is none. And there's many, many good evolutionary explanations as to why this is. Chief amongst them, the seeing patterns where there are none often, very, very often stopped our ancestors being eaten by big, scary things with claws and teeth. It's much better to assume that something is there than to actually go and investigate it and find out it's there when it's 12 foot and got 3 foot long teeth. I don't like it. Small house cats, they scare me. So there's a fact seeing the 20 foot long saber-toothed tiger would certainly not be my favorite thing. But that we actually have an explanation as to why there is an appearance of design.
So what do you think about that so far, Ulrich?
Something better comes to mind. Sometimes I lie in my bed and I see my clothes hanging on the chair, and that scares me. That would also be...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not convinced by the argument from design. We can't. No one currently knows, if we're honest, what happened before the universe began. Or, well, you may know the concept of the Planck time. It's the smallest possible measure of time, and we can pretty accurately know what happened from then to now. But it is basically impossible from our knowledge of the universe right now to know what happened before then. So we can get really close to the start of the universe, but not quite there. And so people can give you theories. Hypotheses. Best got to be careful with that word theory. Hypotheses about what happened before the universe, but no one actually knows. And we just have to go with what's more likely. And in terms of candidate explanations, ones that comport more to the laws of physics and time and space that we know now are more appealing to me than God did it, than magic. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, sounds reasonable. If you lack experiences with God, which you probably do, then...
I've had plenty of weird experiences in my time, but I've had experiences that sound very similar to people who are believers, but I just associate them with natural phenomena, and they all usually prove to be right. I mean, coincidence is just coincidence, and there are other explanations around things. You think about it a little bit, and there's always, it seems to be an explanation for something that isn't a god or a spirit or anything supernatural, as far as I can see. I mean, hearing voices, sudden good luck after you'd asked for it, seeming answering of prayers. All of these things can be answered in a naturalistic way, and every single time they are tested empirically, God fails spectacularly to show himself. And that's why I don't personally have a belief, because the evidence presented so far and the testing that's been done on these phenomena have not proven compelling in any particular way. But that's just me.
Ulrich, I'm really interested in this because, first of all, I appreciate you as a caller. I genuinely do, because you're listening to the responses that you give. And even though you disagree with us, you know, we're having a good conversation where we're stopping and we're listening and we're kind of responding to each other respectfully. So thank you for that. But in response specifically to your last question about personal experience, when I just finished my little talk about the brain being a pattern-seeking machine, you said yourself there's been many occasions where you've kind of seen clothes piled up on a chair or whatever it was, and in the darkness, and it scared you because you thought you saw a figure there. Taking that into account, and that is your own experience, how do you know that you can trust your personal experiences when it comes to God, when you know that your own personal experiences can be mistaken?
Yeah, that's actually a good point. But with all these perceptions, you said the appearance of design, and then we also have the appearance of experiences. So isn't that somehow like, who is trying to cheat us into believing then? If all appears to be God and spirits and stuff like that.
But I don't know what religion you belong to. I don't know whether you belong to a religion or you have an individual belief in God. But let's just say, for example, that you just have an individual belief in God, just so we don't disclose your religion if you don't want to do that. And in your individual belief in God, there are certain sets of morals, criteria that you follow because of that, etc., etc. And you believe this strongly because of the personal experiences you've had. Now, what do? You're convinced that your personal experiences are genuine, that they've come from God, and this reinforces your belief. But what do we do when we have a Muslim and a Hindu and a Buddhist and different denominations of Christianity that have all had very, very strong personal experiences, and they are all convinced that those personal experiences demonstrate to those individuals that their particular religion is true? Whether it's theistic or not, whether it's come from God, whether it's a sign that, the universe is a certain way, but they've come to those conclusions through personal experience. How do we differentiate from those many, many different people and your own personal experience to say that, yes, this one is a genuine one and all the others are false?
Then we wouldn't have to conclude there is a lot of false experiences, but also then the question is, who is behind these false experiences, or what's behind this? Or is this just some huge psychological phenomena which also gives us then a disadvantage as humans?
So let's have a look let's apply Occam's razor then. Occam's razor is the idea, the principle in science. Some people misunderstand it and think it's that the simplest explanation is the right one, but it's not. What Occam's razor actually says is that the explanation with the least amount of assumptions is likely to be the correct one. So we've got the idea. So we've got two propositions here. We've got these personal experiences from different cultural perspectives, from often contradictory entities, are saying that I'm giving you this personal experience so that you know that I am God and I exist, and that you know this in your heart. Or that we have this universal psychological phenomena where we know already that the human brain is capable of making huge mistakes. You know that in your own life through this mistaking clothes in the dark as a person. So we know that this happens. We know it happens universally to all people. That's the way our brains are made up. We make mistakes. Which one is the kind of explanation that requires the least assumptions? Is it that people are having experiences which they genuinely believe, but they're just falling prey to the natural mistakes that the brain makes? Or is it more likely that we have a pantheon of gods which contradict each other, which cannot all exist in the same space because they contradict each other, all telling their individual believing followers that they are true? Which one of those requires the least assumptions, do you think?
Well, maybe there is a third option, right? The third option would be like what the Bible says, there is one God, but then there are many demons who are lying. That
still takes more assumptions. I mean, like, we do appreciate your call, and I believe you're trying to be honest, but you are starting to stray into what if, like, sort of like what ifs that we've already covered. When you say, is it like what's causing all this behind it, or is it just psychology? We've already explained that we know that our psychology can be flawed. And you say there was a disadvantage. We already explained how it is actually evolutionary advantageous to be pattern matching machines as we are. So it does feel slightly like, did we not explain it properly? Or, are you on board with that? And to then say, well, then maybe it's demons instead. Again, that's making assumptions that not only that demons exist, but also that these people have mistaken demons for their own gods, and there is very little plausible way of demonstrating or proving any of that, as far as I can see, unless you have some methodology. Pardon my tongue there, some methodology that we can use. Is there a way we can test whether these things are demons or gods or not?
Yeah, of course we cannot. Yeah, so then we leave it like that, I guess. Yeah, but it was a good discussion, so thank you